Hey everyone, thank you so much for clicking on this video. If you're watching on YouTube, you can find me at Anita K. If you're watching on Rumble, my channel name is my initials, AK Straight Speaks. I know that it's a very weird channel name, but I made that channel when I was working at Global News, and I only made it not to be found or anything like that. I just wanted to get some answers. So at the time I made it, I interviewed a nurse named Corinne Maury, and I interviewed a former global cameraman named Chester who had COVID and had ended up in the hospital. And the reason that I bring that up is because the person I'm interviewing today, we have a little bit of a connection. He was the one that helped me find Corinne so I could get some answers at the time about what was going on in the hospital. So I'm very happy to be talking to my guest today. He is a documentary filmmaker. He is a cameraman also. The film that we're going to talk about today is called Stolen Water. Waging war on water rights and BC food security. And this is really an important topic for anybody that resides in British Columbia and Canada, because there seems to be an attack coming from so many angles, but also an attack on your farmers. So before we introduce our guest today, let's just have a little look at a clip from Stolen Water.
People need to wake up, you know. Their food doesn't come from a supermarket. It all starts right here. That's where their food starts from, you know. And if they keep on this, you know, red tape thrown at us, we're not allowed to keep, you know, doing what we need to do. You know, where's your food going to come from? People need to wake up.
Well, I would say to them, if they want reasonably priced food, they can't complain about the price of food going up in the stores when the government is, they might not be deliberately waging war on us, but their policies are making it very, very difficult for us. And most of these policies aren't based in fact. But it's going to have a dire consequences to the food production.
We have authority to enter onto private land to inspect for compliance with this order, and that's what we're doing, and we will continue to do that. I can tell you right now, I'm not going to send you an email telling you we're doing it, because I'm telling you we're doing it right now. There's our guys in the trucks right now. That's what they're doing. They're going on to properties, yours or other people's, under our legal inspection authorities to do so.
Wow. Okay. So joining me right now is the maker of that film, Stolen Water, Simon Hergott. Simon, hello.
Hi, Anita. Thanks for having me on.
Oh, thank you. It's so nice to talk to you. A lot of people, that documentary is making the rounds amongst people who, like in the freedom community, people I think who want to know sort of real answers of what's going on and that are not being provided, I suppose, by mainstream news. Tell me, how did you come across, or what got you started making this documentary? How did you learn about this topic?
Yeah, so I'm pretty in tune with Westfold because in 2021 I shot 2 documentaries on the wildfires here, and what I did was I exposed a whole lot of lies from our government. You know, they were saying one thing on the ground in Paxton Valley was a different thing. And throughout that process of exposing a lot of the lies, I met a lot of wonderful people in Paxton Valley, in Monty Lake, in Westfold, and I made a lot of friends and a lot of connections. And then through that, I've heard about these issues with the water. I've been given the heads up about 2 weeks ago now, and they explained to me what was happening, and I knew right away how important of an issue this was.
Yeah, I mean, you're reminding me that if people go to your YouTube channel, Simon, just type in your name, Simon Hergott, we can see some of the videos and documentaries that you've made in the past. But just tell people, tell the public, what are they doing with the water and the farmers? Like, exactly what are they doing to them? What's going on with these restrictions?
So yeah, the province has these NRO officers, the natural resource officers, that they're sending into Westfold and into Salmon Arm and Armstrong area, and they're shutting farmers' irrigation down. And the problem with what they're doing is that a lot of these farmers aren't drawing water off of rivers. They're drawing them from deep within aquifers that aren't affecting downstream necessarily. And what these farmers are, all they're asking for is some hard evidence to suggest that their irrigation is causing problems. And so they want the data. They want to sit down with the province, with the forest minister, and discuss these things and come to a reasonable conclusion about what can be done. But the problem is that that's not happening. So the province is just coming in with no evidence, no actual reasoning, and they're just blanket shutting down everything. And like I say in the film, in the text at the beginning, these orders are coming at a really crucial point in the crop cycle where farmers are at risk of losing $100,000 or more if they don't get these crops watered to go into winter.
Basically, this doesn't seem to make a lot of sense to anyone who's looking at it, because am I to understand that the government is saying, "Oh, you're harming the river, so we're giving you water restrictions," when really they're not? Like, they get it through the aquifer. I mean, the farmers basically know what they're doing and know how to preserve the land, and the government is coming in and giving them restrictions. And to your mind, does it make any sense?
So no, it's not making any sense, because like the farmers here have said countless times, is that they're drawing from water sources that aren't affecting the river flow that affects the salmon downriver. So they're drawing from these very deep aquifers that have no consequence on the river levels. And meanwhile, the province is coming here and saying that we're in a massive drought. But in the last week since I put out part one, there's been an immense amount of rain that's fallen. And the river levels have jumped. The salmon are getting cooler water. And it just, to all the farmers around here, it just reeks of I would like to say communistic control, essentially, is what it is. It seems like a coordinated effort to stifle farmers, slowly but surely.
Yeah. I would agree with that. I mean, if somebody's been farming for generations upon generations, they know what they're doing. They know how to take care of the land and yield good crops. And that is what we all rely on when they get transported to the grocery store, so that we don't have inflation and whatever. Like, it all works together. And I get the sense that these farmers know what they're doing. Even in the video, one of your farmers said, he was a guy with a kind of cowboy hat on. He said, if we could plan, if there was some communication, then, some crops could use less water and we could work with the government. But the government doesn't seem to be answering their questions or showing up to meetings. Is that what you've heard too?
Yeah, that's correct. So the government isn't presenting them any options. They're not discussing the details of this water shutdown. It's just a blanket shutdown that many farmers across the province are actually dealing with. And I've been reached out to by farmers in Cowichan who are dealing with the same problem. So over on the island, they want me to come down and document what's happening there, because they're saying, they watched the film I put out, and they're saying the same thing is happening on their farms there, and there's issues and across the interior of BC here. It's just happening everywhere, and there's no science that the province is bringing to back up their order.
Once again, there's no science behind anything. They just make these blanket rules. And I think that I think it's pretty clear now. How we get called names and stuff before, we're conspiracy theorists, we're this, we're that. Well, it's hitting you in the face now. It's like they almost want to do everything so you don't succeed. They want to do everything so it does drive up inflation. They want to do things so it does compromise your health. I don't see any other way of looking at it. I mean, do you kind of feel like that too? Like, you're like, come on, you're not letting us get ahead. So do you feel this is almost deliberate?
Well, yeah. So that was one of the key points of this film, Stolen Water, that I put out. Is it was to basically stay on the level of facts, and we weren't wanting to delve into any potential conspiracy theories, which we all know now. You and I know that a lot of the stuff that we talked about aren't conspiracy. They happen. It's like a 6 month kind of cycle of these things coming true.
Yeah.
But the point of the film was to present facts and to let the public come to their own conclusions of what's happening. Because if we just point out that these farmers are being shut down for no good reason, for an arbitrary reason, maybe other parts of the province are really having a problem with water, but it's not widespread across the province. And the problem with the order is that it's widespread.
Right.
It's not addressing.
It's a one size fits all yet again, yet we live in a rainforest. So I don't think these are mistakes. I think these are deliberate actions. And so what are the farmers saying? Like, I guess the first thing is for us to bring awareness, which is what you're doing, which is what I'm doing. And I guess they need our support, these farmers.
Yeah, so that's the thing. If these videos are just shared amongst farmers and country people, then that's good. It'll help get the government's attention. But what really will help is if people in the city start to wake up to what's happening, because a lot of people aren't really aware of how bad this is and how it's going to affect them in the coming years.
Yeah,
so
they're not aware.
Compounding effect.
Mm-hmm. And with the news not being on Facebook and stuff like that, it makes people, not that news you want to look at, but it makes people unaware that anything's going on. And that's the dangerous thing behind it. And I just, go ahead.
That's actually the most important thing right now. For my time in news, what I've learned is the lies that the media tells outright aren't the worst. It's their lying by omission, which I think is the most insidious and the most dangerous thing that the news does. And right now, global news, they haven't touched on this. They weren't at the town hall meeting that happened 5 days ago in Westfold here. They weren't documenting all of these farmers' problems. They are lying. They're currently lying by omission, and I think that's a despicable thing on the mainstream media part.
100%. And you know what? I think now is a good time to bring up our connection to Global News. Many people know I was fired from Global News. I was a newscast director there when I realized we were lying by omission by not telling the public things they needed to know about the vaccine and about lockdowns and about masks and about vitamins and all those things. That was making me bonkers, and the origin. But you actually, you know what? Let me just play this first. You are like a beacon of light for me, because when I worked at Global News, I never told this story too much. I found a documentary called Heroes No Longer. And when I saw that documentary, I was like, this is the first time I'm seeing anything that makes sense. So I actually want to play a little clip of that documentary. And then when we come back, I want to talk to you about our Global News connection. So hang on.
COVID has turned out to be one of the most easily treatable viruses. And people need antiviral treatments to keep them out of hospital when they get sick. And the fact that the authorities have denied that to them and told doctors like me that I'm not allowed to prescribe ivermectin anymore is absolutely unethical. All of the COVID mitigation strategies that the authorities have imposed upon us, whether they're masks or lockdowns or social distancing or vaccines, or all of these things are all about safety. That is the whole focus of this thing, is about safety. And so if safety really is the issue, the question is, why do they withhold treatment from people who get COVID?
So that is a clip from Heroes No Longer, which is also a documentary that you made, Simon, which was removed from YouTube and at the time. But I had found this documentary, and I want to tell people I reached out to you. I called you one day, or I asked you for your number or something, and you're like, who's this lady calling me? And then when we talked, I came to realize, maybe you can tell people, but what is your connection with Global News, if you don't mind telling us?
Yeah, so I was a freelance camera operator for about a decade. I started out a few years doing work for CTV, and then Global discovered that the work I was doing was really good. I was always boots on the ground any time of the day. So I'd be covering a wide range of things.
Mhm. You were our global stringer camera guy up in the interior, so to speak, and we have stringers in different places. So we call our camera guys to say, "Hey, can you cover this?" And you work with us essentially. You're our freelance guy, go-to guy, and we have a couple of those. So you were our go-to guy at Global for a long time, and it turned out 10 years. And we knew when I talked to you after seeing Heroes No Longer, we realized that we knew a lot of the same people. Same producers, same editorial staff, all the anchors. We knew all the same people. So we have that connection. I was floored when I found that out.
Yeah, and that we were both, putting the same, puzzle pieces together and wanting to speak out, and being worried about what the consequences of speaking out would be, right?
So we all know the consequences that happened for me. They kicked me out of there after working there for over 20 years. What were the consequences for you?